Welcome to Inside the Play Call with Orange Arrow, and I'm your host, Sean Robinson. And today we have a very, very special guest, my guy, Chu. What up, Chu? How are you?
I'm good, boss. Thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure.
I appreciate you, man. Hold on. Chukwudi
Yeah.
Onyeukwu.
Yes, sir. The government.
Bro, bro, when I met you years ago, you introduced yourself as Chu.
Yep.
So when did you start being called Choo?
So that's a nickname from childhood. Um, Government official name is, Chukwudi Onyeukwu. Um, my first name means there's God, and my last name means chief. Um, I'm Igbo. A lot of Igbo people have that Chukwu in their names, and that means God. Um, But even from when I was young, everyone called me Choo Choo. My dad called me Choo Choo. My mom called me Choo Choo. That was, and that wasn't because like in the United States, people call me Choo Choo because my name is hard to say for them.
Right,
But
right.
even in Nigeria, people always call me Choo Choo. And I would say I always went by Choo Choo until maybe when I started being in the hospital more. And people, for me and for like, in Nigeria, Nigerian culture, it wasn't like associated with like the choo-choo train, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So people hear it and say, oh, like that's kind of like a fun, like childhood nickname, but I don't know if that's like something you should introduce yourself to
Mhm. Yeah,
the people as in the hospital because they look at it more of like a choo-choo train.
yeah.
So I think that's when I started switching it. Sometime now mainly I just introduce myself as Chew, so not really like a
Mm,
big
yeah,
switch.
yeah.
But usually what happens is the first time I introduce myself to everyone, I say my full name now in the hospital. I say Chukwudi. Usually then at some point in the conversation it comes up that I just go by Chew. Um,
Chukwudi. It's a beautiful name, man. Chukwudi.
I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
that's
I
really
appreciate
dope. Now. Did anyone call you that name? Like, if you were about to get in trouble, would they say your full name?
Yes and no. I mean, my mom, I don't think really ever said my full name. Sometimes my dad would still say Chukudi, but my mom, even if I'm in trouble, it's Choo Choo, like,
Yeah,
come upstairs.
yeah. So, so,
So
so
my
I'm getting
mom,
ahead of myself, man. I'm getting ahead of myself because you dropped some little hints there about the hospital. We're gonna get to that, but
yeah,
as a former athlete, the importance of warming up and stretching, right?
right.
Couple warm up questions. So here we
Yeah,
go. If you could only listen to one musical artist for 30 days straight, their entire catalog, who are you selecting?
that's a hard question and an easy question because there's probably a couple people that you could listen to they have to have a body of work, so that narrows the playing field. But then I guess once you're inside of that, the first person I think of is Jay-Z because I think he probably has the most like iconic songs that I love and I can like sing along to, and I just, like those songs come on, every word. Um, but I don't think you can go without mentioning like a Lil Wayne or a Drake. I think they both have a body of work that you could listen to them for probably 2 to 3 months and still find new things that you never heard before. So
I
I
can dig.
think I would probably say Jay-Z just because I could probably put one of his songs on repeat for a week and be fine. So
So,
the
so
yeah.
when you think of Jay and his catalog, give me one or two songs that come to mind.
I mean, Forever Young is the first one.
Wow. Okay.
That song is probably, I listen to that song, I think in every big period of my life. It just kind of puts everything into like perspective.
Hmm.
Thinking like because it's a song of like right like staying forever young, like you're not really realizing like how far you made it and just like realizing that life is like kind of flying by. So I think that song has a lot of perspective, but it was also very real. It's everything he puts out. And the other one is Numb Encore with Linkin Park, the remix. I think
Hmm.
that was, I mean, when he dropped it, I remember pretty vividly. He said he was going to retire, and so it was a big song at the time, and I was like, oh, this might be the last one. And also I think that song had a lot of like, I've done this, this is like my mark that I've left, and I'm, like just kind of putting my greatness on something. So I think those two songs are like really big ones that I resonate with.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I
can,
those put on repeat for a week, man.
can I get an encore? Do you want more?
gonna roll with the Brooklyn boy.
Let's go for one last time. I need you to
Roll.
let's go. Yeah, you passed the test. You passed the test. So if you had to be on a reality show, dog, you had to be on a reality show. It could be currently on or no longer on air. Which one are you choosing? Married to Medicine?
I'd be on that one. If I had to be on a reality TV show, I don't know reality. Whenever I think of reality TV, all I think of is like the love shows. I don't know. Like the last one I watched was like Love is Blind last year, but I couldn't be on that. It seems too stressful. But if I had to be on a reality TV, probably like a Survivor. I think one of the shows that has a challenge built into it, just because I mean it seems like what they do is pretty ridiculous. But I think probably like most student athletes like look at challenges and they're like, well, it might be hard, but
right.
So I think probably something like that where it's, just built on like making it through to the end and there's a prize. I think I would do well on something like that.
I dig that. Last one more question. What is your favorite TV show of all time? If it came on in the next hour, you will sit down and watch the episode.
This is gonna be broad, unfortunately, but that's between SpongeBob and the Chappelle Show. I guess
Wow.
both are comedies, so you can kind of see
Okay.
it. But yeah, SpongeBob, I mean, I think that's a classic. It's like timeless comedy, honestly. Chappelle Show, I mean, anyone that's watched it understands. Like, it's iconic. Yeah.
I can dig it. I can dig it. So you got into a little bit, but I'm gonna throw it to you. Take it away a little bit. Hometown, early beginnings, introduction to sports, family.
Right. So I initially was born in Nigeria. I lived there probably 2 or 3 years. I left when I was very young. Then my family moved to Jamaica. We lived there for about 6 years. And then moved to the United States. When we moved to the United States, I lived in Georgia. So like Cobb County, Georgia, like the suburbs of like Metro Atlanta. Did everything there, elementary school through high school. And then my senior year, graduated, went to University of Pittsburgh
So,
for undergrad.
so you faster. I'm gonna slow you down. Slow you down. So where were you born in Nigeria?
So I'm Igbo, but so my family's from Umuahia.
Mm.
There's no different regions within like the country. My family's from Umuahia.
And so when you moved to the States, you were what, about 6 or 7?
When I moved to the States, finally, I think it was 8. I think it
Okay.
was like 2, 3 in Nigeria, and then like 6, I think, in Jamaica, about that.
And how was that transition for you from Jamaica to the States?
I mean, for me, I was a kid, so I think I was just kind of excuse me, along for the ride. I think that from what my parents tell me, I was very shy as a kid, and so during these transition periods, I would kind of just be by myself and kind of like isolate myself from others, and just wait until months and months had passed before I started really interacting and getting to know the area. I think I still kind of do a format of that now, where if I walk into a new room, I kind of assess before I make any interactions. But my mom told me when we initially got to Jamaica, and then because my dad would kind of go back and forth between the states. Like it took me a while before I kind of got accustomed to it. And she actually told me I stopped speaking for a while. She said I went like dumb for months before I would even speak to anyone. And then kind of the same thing when we came to the States. I think it took me some time to adjust. I personally don't remember it, but I was told this. But I think after a while, it just kind of becomes second nature, and especially as a kid, you're just like outside having fun. In terms of soccer, I feel like I couldn't give anyone a start date when I played soccer. It's just like always been part of my life. Always been something that I've played. Definitely from the moment we came to the States, it's been a part of all of my memories. Signing up for the soccer team, signing up for the leagues, and just like every Saturday going out to games. Practicing like all the time, but those Saturday morning games and those like weekend long tournaments. So I would say transition periods where it took me some time to adjust, but I think soccer's definitely been like something continuous throughout my entire life.
And so think about your early childhood, Cobb County, we're outside of Atlanta. What other interests did you have outside of soccer?
Really, I would say it was very simple. It was school and it was sports. And in terms of like how the household was, I think many people that go on to play college athletics, I don't know if you can say you prioritize sports, but I would say my family was one where, both me, my brother, and my sister were all Division I college athletes, but like sports were always something that was you do for fun, you do because you're good at it and you love doing it, but it's not something that's a priority in terms of like, what you're looking forward to in life. Um, and so I think, those were the two main things. Outside of that, I used to draw a lot. I played the trumpet, I played the piano.
Okay.
Um, there's some
All
good
right.
things in there.
Let's
Uh,
let's let's stay there. Let's stay there because I'm a music guy. And so,
yeah.
did you learn how to read music?
Oh yeah, I did. Initially, I started playing the piano in church, but I wasn't really good at just like following along. And so then I learned how I in school I learned how to play the trumpet just purely by reading music. And then the piano was something I tried to pick up more naturally, but I think when I started with a base of sheet music, it was hard to transition to like playing by ear.
Yeah,
So I never got great at that, but with sheet music, I was decent.
I can dig it. So I started on the piano, then I'm playing
Yeah,
the alto saxophone. So I still dabble with that from time to time. And
yeah.
so are you so what genre of music do you like? Do you like jazz? Do you think about
I love all music. Like I think everyone says that, and I think they're all lying. I think I I truly love all music. Like I go on to Spotify, and I play like every album. Like I just listen to whether no matter what if it's country, if it's rock, if it's jazz, if it's like of course like rap and hip hop I love, but like I think and if there's a new album and I think it like for any reason, whether it's album art, whether it's the a feature that I heard, whether it's a title of a song that's catchy. If I like one song, if I like really one thing about it, I always take the time to explore like the entire album. So I think I have a lot of different like music tastes, like house music, pop music, EDM. Like I don't know, all of it is pretty much very very diverse playlist. I think.
I dig it. Now, do you still play either one of those instruments?
I do not.
Okay.
I would not be happy with that. She spent a lot of money on piano lessons, but I do not.
And so you have two siblings. So where do you fall? Oldest, middle,
I'm the
youngest?
middle child. I'm the middle child. I was the youngest for a while. My sister is now 20 years old, so I'm 29. My brother is like 3 years older than me. But I'm the middle child. So I think I was youngest and then transitioned more of a middle child. Yeah.
And so where did you play high school? So where do you play
High
soccer?
school. Yeah, I went to South Cobb High
Wow.
School.
Okay.
Shout out the Eagles. I love that. I played, yeah, so I played at South Cobb, and then the club team that I played at in Georgia was called Cobb FC. I think now they have like merged into some other club, like Southeast Academy or something like that. The whole structure has changed, but yeah, played in high school at South Cobb High School, and then like club soccer, which is more like the travel league and whatnot. That was through Cobb FC.
And what position did you play
I
in high
played
school?
forward.
Forward. Okay. And what's some of the athletes you looked up to growing up?
You know, I mean, Ronaldo was the best,
Yeah.
the first Ronaldo, not the current one. Um, I mean, Messi's still playing, but I mean, Messi, Ronaldinho, Zinedine Zidane, Cafu, like really the Brazilian national team was just like iconic of, I think anyone that was playing soccer at the time. I think I also looked up to like Landon Donovan and Wayne Rooney. Those were like two people that, as a forward, I was more like a workhorse. Like I was very fast, and like even if the game is going one way or the other, kind of like force out a goal kind of thing. And I also feel like those are two players that, they were good, but they also still like were putting in a lot of work and a lot of effort to always try and change the tide of the game. So I mean, there are a lot, I would say. Definitely Zidane and Messi and Ronaldinho, but some of the other forwards as well.
Now, do you always refer to the game as soccer, or do you refer to it as football as well?
So that is, I'm so happy you asked that question
Let's go.
because it's called football.
Right.
And when you're in America, you don't have to put the accent on it. You can still just say football.
Fair
Everyone
enough.
here, they say soccer versus football, but that's only in Spanish speaking countries. Everywhere else, it's football. But I mean, no, I say soccer. Um, but I mean, if I say football, like I know what I'm talking about as well. But I think like in the soccer community, sometimes we'll just say footy. Like if we want to go play soccer, you say, hey, let's go play footy.
Okay.
So that's another one.
So I think here in America, because of football, as far as like
Right. Yeah.
American football, we say football, they automatically think
100%.
that style of sport. So I think that lends to the adding football.
Right.
So you gotta understand, well, okay, you're talking about, soccer.
Right. They go to Sean Robb highlights at that point.
You got to dig for those. You got to dig for those. And so you end up going to the University of Pittsburgh. You went to Pitt, and that's where we met. But
Yeah.
what went to the decision of you going to Pitt, and what other schools were you considering?
That's actually a good question. That takes me back. So my decision to go to the University of Pittsburgh was like I think many other decisions I make in life. It was very simple. I knew I wanted to play soccer and I knew I wanted to be a doctor. And the University of Pittsburgh had a good soccer team. They recruited me. I felt like I would fit in there. I felt like I could help them out. And I mean, the athletic department is also one of at the time, I don't know if I would say few, but the athletic department at Pitt is very good at helping their athletes on and off the field. Hence, I mean, things like Orange Arrow, which is not, it's not from Pitt, it's from you, but I think the athletic department itself does a good job of helping athletes, whether it's just, for your sport or if you're trying to do other things. And so that kind of vibe from when I visited. At the time I visited, though, they did not have a Chick-fil-A on campus and they did not have a Popeyes on campus when I visited Pitt's campus. And that almost broke the deal for me. I almost did.
Oh yeah, Chick-fil-A was. I mean, that's Atlanta home right there. Yeah.
And that was like, we would have that every day for breakfast. I'm like, how am I going to eat here? But no, I think the University of Pittsburgh definitely sold me because the team was what I wanted, but also outside of that, I knew what I wanted to do after school. And they were a school that would help me get towards that goal and not really deter you from your goals, which can happen at some places. Other places, I was mainly, it was really between like Big East and ACC schools. A few like Ivy Leagues, but Ivy Leagues don't have, the athletic scholarships as much. But probably like, the notable ones that I remember was Georgetown was one I was looking at, Wake Forest was one I was looking at, Yale was one I was looking at, Howard I was looking at as well. I'd say like those are the ones that are like really come back to mind now. Yeah.
And so you made a statement. You knew that you wanted to be a doctor. Unpack that for us.
Yeah, I mean that's also a good question. Um, I think that was a decision made very early in life. I think that pretty much when I came to the States, in Jamaica, the healthcare system isn't at the time, it wasn't very robust. Like I remember taking cabs to the hospital when I was like, I broke my chin, I like had to get stitches, and we had to hail a cab, and like three or four of them passed us because they didn't want me to bleed in the car. It's just like it's a very different system, in Jamaica at the time. But now, like when I moved to the United States, I just remember having a very different experience. I remember going to my physician, enjoying all the visits, feeling like it was productive. I feel like my physician really got to know me and problems I would have, you very much, even at that time before I think we were doing like more personalized medicine and things like that. I think that my family physician was someone that was taking into account, who I was and my lifestyle and how I was living and not just looking at like symptoms and diagnoses before treating. So I think that's something that resonated with me. I enjoyed going to the physician. And then I also had teammates on my team, and their parents were all like, it was mainly like three or four family physicians that were all in my life, like mine, and then also like two or three of my other teammates that had parents that were family physicians.
You were in high school?
More on the club team on Cobb FC because
Okay, yep,
I played for Cobb like from on age 10 until I graduated.
Oh,
Even
wow.
like even when I was at Pitt, I was still underage. Like I was 17 when I came to Pitt. So like that summer I still like went back and played for them. So I mean on that team it was more like, there were a few that were doctors and I was like, oh, they seem to like what they do. They seem to help people. So it's just something that pretty early on I was like, this looks like a fulfilling job and it looks like I'll help people. And so I kind of made that decision early. I don't know if I probably should have explored more, but I think it seemed to work out. So
That seems like to be a wise decision to me as well. So
yeah,
your time at Pitt, talk
yeah.
about how did you balance being a student athlete and then what did you decide on your major?
Balance being a student athlete was, I mean, I think when you say balance, you have to realize that it can teeter, but
Totally.
not really fall off, right?
Totally.
So
Totally.
balance was never like this.
Yeah,
Balance,
managed, but
not,
maybe
yeah,
more managed, right?
well,
Yeah.
yeah, very much managed. And I think it's all about choice. We both know Penny Samai. I remember going to Penny Samai one day,
Shout
and I
out to
told
Penny.
shout out Penny.
Yeah.
I said, Penny, I think it was like junior year. I said, man, I definitely thought about quitting so many times, but I also feel like if you didn't think about quitting, you're probably not working hard enough. And he was like, everybody that didn't quit said this. He's like, so many people have said that to me, And I think that there was definitely times where I was like, I don't know if I should do pre-med, or I don't know if I should do, um, if I should continue playing soccer. Many phone calls with my parents and, family and loved ones about honestly like calling them to quit, right? And then they kind of talk you off the ledge, which is another whole thing to say about the support that you need to like do so many things. But I think the managing it or the balance of it was very difficult. I think very early on, I had no idea how to manage it. It was just showing up and doing whatever you could and showing up and doing whatever you could, whether that was for class or for soccer. And then I think after, getting some, some time and some balance and some kind of like bearings around Pittsburgh, around the campus, and also with the help, I think, of a lot of mentorship and people looking out for me. I think that's something that came on maybe like latter end of sophomore year, once I started really aligning my priorities and realizing like, one, I only have 2 years left, so I got to start getting into gear. And two, just if you got to start focusing on what's important, and then other things will kind of fall in place. So I think that's where it came from more.
So when you think about that time, and you were being candid as far as being challenging, um, the ups and downs of managing it. What
Yeah,
advice would you give to somebody who is maybe interested in being a pre-med? Also, they want to be an athlete at the collegiate level, and because we
yeah,
know that particularly for minority students, when
yeah,
when when growing up, minority children growing up, we want to be like adults love to hear people say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, right? So
yeah,
those the two pathways, the career pathway people get really excited about. And you
right.
went through that journey, and we'll talk more about what you're doing now. But what would you say to those individuals who may be on the front end of that managing of I want to be a doctor, pre-med, the demands there, and I also love sports as well. I want to be an athlete. Speak to that a little bit. What would you
Yeah.
share?
I would say, I mean, the number one advice I give to anyone really about anything is just keep putting one foot in front of the other. I think that a lot of times you're never, there's not many times in life that you're just doing one thing, right? Like even if you're not doing like school and athletics, let's say you have a job, let's say you have family things going on, right? And if there's something going on that's, hindering you or making you kind of regroup, and let's say if your family situation and that's really bogging you down, don't let that prevent you from taking that next step with your education. Like keep just putting one foot in front of the other. And I think that's like the biggest thing, no matter what. Outside of that, I would say, I mean, right, the age old, right? If it's easy, everyone would do it. But I more say that it's really hard. It's gonna suck, but that shouldn't deter you. Like I don't like to sugarcoat things. But I think the value at the end, and I think really talking to people that have gone through the path, they'll let you know. There's nothing really easy about it. It's just that it's worth it. And once you make up your mind that you want it, because that's the hard part. You have to make up your mind that you want it. Once you make up your mind that you want it, then don't let something deter you. Just kind of keep going and find avenues that you need to cope and find people that can support you because that's, I think, ridiculously essential. But I think for people starting out, the main thing is, don't let anyone put their boundaries on you. Keep going no matter what, and know that it's worth it at the end. So
So you said this twice. So
yeah,
you said finding someone that could support you. And
yeah,
another one you said it was how mentors helped you during that period. Can you
yeah.
speak to the importance of mentors and mentorship?
Definitely. I think it's probably one of the most important things. Because let's go back to even I'd say I'll put support and mentorship in the same bucket in this. And I'll go back to my situation where I'm calling home and I'm saying, hey, I want to quit either soccer or medicine because I told many people I want to quit both many times. But the answer that I get is no, you can do it, keep going. You have this, like it's hard, but you're capable, right? That is very different from if I were to call and someone says, you've done enough, like why are you still pushing? Just kick your feet up. Like you're already a Division 1 athlete and you got a decent GPA, you can pivot and do something else. That's also very different than if I call and no one picks up, which is also very different than if I have no one to call. Right. So there's so many even just levels to having someone that you can talk to and having someone that can show you. But I think more on the mentorship side is what I was saying of seeing people like you that have done what you wanted to do and that are happy. Because if they're the other way around, then you may rethink it. But I think in terms of mentorship, I always try to have at least one person that's just successful, no matter if I relate to them or not, right? It's like if I want to learn how to build a house, I need to find someone that's built houses for a long time and they're really good at it. And it doesn't matter if we'll ever become friends, but like this person's good at building houses. And I think the other person you need is someone that you relate to that also builds houses that they may not be the best house builder, but you personally connect with them. So that way you get proficiency, but you also get like perspective, right? But I think for mentorship, I was very fortunate to have that at the University of Pittsburgh, both in athletics and definitely off the field. A lot of my mentorship came from alumni, people in the athletic department. I mean, people like yourself, right? Like I think working with Orange Arrow, working with Penny, working with all the organizations that allowed us to give back to the Pittsburgh community taught me the importance of giving back, right? Like, now I definitely want to, build something that is also giving back or I definitely try to give back to programs like yourself and other programs that have started that are already doing the work because that's another topic of not always having to start something. But I think that kind of the essence of I forget who told me this, but they said that you know, everything, every shadow that you stand under today is from a tree that was planted yesterday, right? So like I'm at the University of Pittsburgh and I love this place, but like someone helped build this place, right? And they had to leave something behind for me to benefit from it. But also, even more directly, I'm speaking with people like you. I have people like Penny. I have people, like Dr. Pettigrew at the University of Pittsburgh, like Dr. Claggett, like all these like Dr. Hogan at the University of Pittsburgh, all these people that I met. And for one reason or the other, probably didn't even know me that well when they met me, but they were just willing to support me. And they said, all right, whatever you need, whatever you need, just reach out. And those kind of people, I think, are 100% the reason I've been able to, keep going definitely in this field.
And one major reason why they said so openly reach out because of the type of person that you are, just as your core, your character, and how you treat others. And so that transitions to OA. So you got pre-med, you got academics, you got sports, but somehow, some way you made time to be a mentor to young athletes through Orange Arrow. So why did you get involved? And talk about just a little bit of your experience when you were rocking with OA as a college student athlete.
Yeah, I mean, when you came and spoke to us, I think essentially the way I understood your mission, and I may, not exactly say it as eloquently as you would, but you wanted to use athletics as a vessel to teach, student athletes at a younger age, even before they were at the high school, college level, at a younger age where it's more important, where it actually can stick, where you really can make a difference in these people's lives. You wanted to teach them, off the field culture, off the field ethics, things that are going to help you no matter what you do, no matter if you break your ankle, no matter if you trip and fall, no matter if you change from want to be a lawyer to an architect, like these things are just going to help you. And for me, like, right, like you said, like I think the way you carry yourself in any situation is going to speak volumes. And so your message has resonated immediately. And so I was like, well, let's sign me up. There's really no two ways about it. Like I said, I'm very simple with my decisions. If I like it, I'm like, let's just figure out how to do it. It's not
Right.
like if we're doing it, let's figure out how to do it. And so right, there are a lot of things, and I would like to been even more involved than I was, but I think I got a very good experience with the things that I could come to and things I could do. And I think just because I knew how much I benefited from people investing in me, like I think the opportunity to invest in somebody else was just something I had to take up.
Yeah, I was I saw some old videos of
You
videos.
had an Atlanta number.
Say it again.
Did you have an Atlanta number?
I did, yes, totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He from Atlanta too. All right.
Yeah, we did connect. I lived there. Yeah, ATL, shouty. You know what I mean? Oh, whoa. Let's go. And so, but I was thinking of like you going to the Hill. There's a video. You had the Orange Arrow hoodie where it says Orange Arrow on the back. You have the posters going into the Hill District. I think it
Yeah,
was Garfield,
yeah,
and ready to lead a lesson, and then also being part of the dining etiquette event. Yeah,
yeah.
man, it's been really cool, man, to get to know you through serving a community, and shoot, we locked in forever now.
Definitely. And it's, I mean, everything I do and everything I think every event that I'm able to work with you on and give back is always a pleasure. So, I mean, I think that makes it easy, very easy.
So talk about after Pitt. What happened after Pitt? After graduation, then what?
After graduation, well, I think you got to start kind of in senior year because I
Okay,
think
let's go.
being pre-med, that's when things junior to senior year is when things start to get real. Because the application process is a 1 year application process if you're going to med school, right? So if I want to start med school when I graduate, I essentially need to start the application process at the end of my junior year. So me personally not being not being the most, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, I think maybe just too busy at the time, maybe not organized enough. I
Trying to
was
avoid procrastination, but sometimes procrastination may get to us. Yeah,
I would
that's
say,
like for me
I would say
personally.
it was planned. It wasn't I because I realized pretty early, and a lot of student athletes do this that realize this is that just because of all the work you have and all like because of like you literally right, you can't take certain classes at certain times and you can't really fulfill all your education requirements because of athletics sometimes. So I realized kind of early that I probably was gonna have to take time off. I think maybe I didn't accept it. I didn't accept it fully until later on when it got to senior year. And I said, oh, okay, well, there's no way that I can even start next year because I still have to take the MCAT and I still like need to study for that, right? But I'm taking, you know, 14, 15 credits plus it's mid-season right now. I'm planning to take 18 next, so it's like there was no room to just put in MCAT studying, which I think most people would look at as a 3 to 4 credit class, right? So for, after school, I think you start senior year and you say, well, I'm definitely going to take these years off. At the time, this is actually senior year is also the time where in season, unfortunately, that's kind of like when I had my injury. Kind of put me out for the season. I broke my foot during practice, but you could say on the bright side, that was also my introduction to orthopedic surgery. Because after that is when I met, the team doctor at the time. This is also when I met Dr. Ergang. It's also who then introduced me to Dr. Hogan, and kind of like that's when I got involved more in the orthopedic surgery realm and started getting involved with some research. So that kind of set into tone. I started doing like research and meeting with them my senior year, and that, the injury was kind of the introduction. Um, so I knew that I wasn't going to start medical school right after finishing undergrad. So I also knew that I needed to take the MCAT. And in terms of the application process, I think when you're applying to med school, there's kind of like 5 boxes or so that you definitely need to check. Maybe not say definitely, but that pre-med candidates try to check. And, you try to have, good GPA, good MCAT score, good volunteering, and also in hospital experience, whether it's volunteering or working, and also research. And at the time, because of all the other things, I had recently just started to research. I think I was part of a sleep study with like neurosurgery, and then I also had just recently like gotten involved with orthopedic surgery research. So my research experience was pretty minimal, and I also knew that I needed time to study for the MCAT. So it really for me just was about planning and how to do that. Um, I remember I graduated. So actually, I finished in the summer. I took, the last summer after graduation, took those classes, graduated officially in the summer, and then went home maybe after a couple weeks. I applied for a job as a research coordinator. Probably a month before going home. Did not know if I was going to get it or not. It was a job here at the University of Pittsburgh. So packed up all my stuff, got home probably a week later, got the call that I got the job. But it said I need to start in 2 weeks. So I said, well,
So you
sounds
were
good.
home, meaning back in Atlanta.
Back in Atlanta at the
Gotcha.
time.
Yep.
Um, and so I was like, okay, well, I need to buy a car and go to Pittsburgh. So I did that. So I went out, bought my first Toyota Camry, drove it up to Pittsburgh the next week. I think I lived with one of my friends at the time, and then that's kind of how I started my research project at that time. I did research and then kind of studied for the MCAT, took the MCAT, and then that next year was just the application cycle. Um, Stayed at the University of Pittsburgh for medical school. In terms of choosing a medical school and choosing a residency, because for me now I've been here. I did undergrad here, I did med school here, and I'm still doing residency here. Definitely, it was kind of the plan to stay here for med school if I could, because I really like the medical school here. It's also a great medical school, and I saw the places. So when you're going in residency, the big thing is like how you match. Like if you're getting into the specialty that you want to get into, and from everything that I'd seen, the people that were coming out of the University of Pittsburgh Medical School were pretty reliably getting to where they needed to go. So everything was indicating that this was a great medical school, and I had the support of the people I'd met in undergrad, um, which is something that I wanted to keep. So I think for me, that was definitely like the best option. Um, so I'm very, very happy it worked out. And then after that, you started thinking about residency, where to go for residency, what you want to do. Like I said, after I'd broken my foot and got introduced to orthopedic surgery, I was pretty much sold. I think I still like to validate, after I make these kind of like simple decisions, I still like to make sure it's still the right decision. So I think a lot of the research and the volunteering in the hospital and like with these surgeons is what solidified it for me, because they all seem to having a good time. And I think really like time was flying when you're in the operating room and you're just like doing these procedures. It goes from 12 to 8 p.m. You really don't realize it until you leave the hospital. So I think that was like something that I don't think before I experienced it, I knew it was possible to just like truly enjoy your work like that, right? And so I think for me, it was very much set in stone what I wanted to do. In terms of location, then now it comes, okay, well, you've been at Pitt for undergrad and med school. Do you want to stay for residency, right? And it's not easy to stay at Pitt for residency is one of them. But then two, I think for me, a lot of people say you need to get different experiences, and I also agree with that. I don't think anyone should, as much as I did stay at the same institution for all of it. I think if you're going to make that decision, you need to be very deliberate. And for me, looking at residencies, one, I mean, the University of Pittsburgh Orthopedic Surgery residency program is, I mean, the best program. I mean, you can argue rankings and stuff, but you definitely can't argue that it's at least one of the best. And so it was already up there on a pedestal of if I could even get into this program, I would definitely love to be here. The only thing was, do I want to stay in Pittsburgh for more time? But looking at other programs, I think I met a lot of other programs that were truly, trying to be like the University of Pittsburgh. So it didn't make sense to leave the University of Pittsburgh for that. There were no other programs that were offering, there's different specialty experiences that you can get in orthopedics. There's really no other programs. There's some that are like it. Like I think there's some that are equal to Pitt. But there were none that were better in terms of like what they were offering in terms of exposure. And also when you're a resident and a surgical resident, you have to get like hands-on exposure. Like you really need to be an active part of the surgeries. And so both like the breadth of the specialties and also the active exposure in the operating room was something that Pitt had that, I mean, no one was really surpassing. And also that there's a tremendous diversity at Pitt that truly no other program has. And I think that was something that I had become accustomed to here, that I was definitely not going to find anywhere else. And then
Quick
there was
question.
yeah, go ahead.
Quick question. So we have an 11-year-old student athlete listening to this. Educate them on residency. What is it and how long is it?
Okay, so residency is basically on the job training. So residents are physicians that have their MD or their DO, and a resident has now chosen their specialty that they're going to be in. So, for me, I've chosen orthopedic surgery, so I'm an orthopedic surgery resident. The length of the residency varies based on what you're doing. So for orthopedic surgery, it can be 5 years or it can be 6 years. For internal medicine, I think it can be 3 years or 4 years. For other surgical specialties, sometimes it's more 5 or 6 or 7. So the length of it depends on what you're doing and what field you're in. But essentially, it is now that you've gone through medical school and you are certified and you've taken the step exams and gone through all the things to have those credentials. Now you learn medicine, but now you need to learn how to do like your specialty, right? So that's what residency is essentially.
So what year is this for you, as relates to your residency?
Currently, I'm in my second year, so I'm 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5. 2 out of 5. And how are you managing it?
So
Talk about time. Oh
I
my
guess it's
goodness.
another part of residency that you could talk. Like residency is very busy. There's absolutely no two ways around it. You 100% know you don't know what you're signing up for. You think you know what you're signing up for, but then you get there and it's even busier. Where you're like, well, I guess I signed up for it. But it's very, very busy. But it is very like the amount of things that I probably learned in one single day, just seeing certain things over and over again, preparing for surgeries. Like, for us, we're like orthopedic surgery is more times a consult service. So something will come in the emergency department, or a patient will be on another service like a medicine service, and they have an orthopedic injury. Orthopedics being the bones, right? So they have an injury dealing with their bones and they need someone to come and look at it, that's when we get involved. So I think the learning, like you're very busy, but the learning process from all the things that you see is kind of the essence of residency, right? So that by time you have gone through your 3 to 5 to 6, 7 years of however long your residency is, you're coming out as an attending that's saying, well, I've seen this, 20, 30, 40, 100 times. This is not something that fazed me. I really just, I see it and I have a plan. I know how to react to it. So I think, yeah, that's kind of the essence of residence. On the job training, it's very busy, but it's very, very good learning experience. And so
And
you come.
before we wrap up, I would love for you to speak to, because you talked about this a little bit earlier, you saw in your childhood, to talk about the importance of a relationship between patient and physician.
Oh yeah, I mean it's essential. I think if most patients, I think they've done studies. If you ask them what they care about in their physician, is being able to trust them, and then I think aptitude, like their knowledge, is like second or third. But I think it's essentially like what the relationship is based on, right? If I meet you, I walk in the room haphazardly, I look like I don't want to be there, and then I tell you something that it may be correct, it may be absolutely 100% correct, but then I present it in a way that you don't really care for and also don't take time to explain it, probably at least you're going to get a second opinion. You're going to say, well, I don't think, that this guy's really taking everything into consideration. And that may, deter like your healthcare. But if you are someone that's, there's so many different dynamics to it. You have to know what you're doing, but also know how to present the information. But I think is if you take time to, you know, treat the patient with respect and have good bedside manner and explain things and ask if people have questions, usually things are well received. And I think that's just very essential because I mean, on the patient side and on the physician side, I think that's something that builds a lot of trust. Um, you know,
And so, as you know, the mission of Orange Arrow is to coach student athletes to aim for success off the field, off the track, out of the pool, wherever the playing arena may be. You truly embody what it means to be more than an athlete. Why is it important for an athlete to be successful outside of sport?
I think because when you are successful outside your, well, I'd even rephrase from being definitely successful to at least striving for success outside of your sport. And I think one, because you can't let your sport define you. I think no matter who you are, no matter how long you played, no matter how great you are at anything that you've done, every single athlete I've seen them say, like, the sport is secondary to life. You play as long as you can, but life always continues after, and it is a more important arena than, wherever you are playing your sport. So I think that's the biggest thing is that you have to be able to navigate when the sport is done. And you have to be able to have, I think, self-awareness, self-confidence, and also a self-identity outside of your sport. Because people that don't have it, I think a lot of people look for that if they don't have it. But I think it's important to really strive for success outside of your sport, because it, one, gives you something that is your own identity, and two, also makes you better in your sport, I think. So
dig it. Dr. Chu, thank you for your time. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you for who you are, man. I appreciate you, boss. Looking forward to connecting here in the near future.
Thank you.
My guy.
Yeah.
H2P, let's go.
H2P.